Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. I want to thank all of our listeners from all over the world. Please do subscribe and share if you're not already. All right, let's get into it.
Right. I'm trying to get something. And so I think one of the things with the Phillips Morris brand that just chalks up how this relates to our current political system, education system, and how the Freud mechanics are used to manipulate us is there was a study done, and men were primarily the smokers of cigarettes in America in the 1940s, all the way up to the 1940s, right? And so to get more women to smoke, just look at how these companies, cigarette companies, worked with newspapers and other forms of media to make this change, right? And how they played on these narratives, these social narratives, things like feminism, activism, equality. So
I think I
the
saw that
Phillips,
same documentary. That's where
right?
Virginia Slims was
The
born.
Virginia Slims, and they paid
The
this group
women's
of
cigarette.
five actors, women, to go up during this. I think it was either a parade or a protest or some kind of thing where there was lots of people out. These women all fired up cigarettes, right? And all the news companies who knew this was going to happen was right there taking pictures. And all in the newspapers the next day, it was women light up torches of freedom, feminism, and this and that and this and that.
Right.
Now that, if you think about it, it's not a big deal. But if you really think about how we're manipulated to this day, especially when it comes to 2020 and all the fucking narratives and protests and news stories that we saw, this is exactly how they manipulate public opinion, and they predict the way you're going to respond. So now women think it's a liberating thing. It's an act of feminism to smoke cigarettes, and it worked. Women started smoking cigarettes like never before. Not quite to equal men, but 30 or 40% more than they ever did. We were manipulated. We were bamboozled. They used the unconscious mind centers to fabricate a story, put it in our newspapers, feed us a narrative for the and it was the unholy marriage of corporations and news media at its finest. Shit's crazy.
I could not agree with you more.
Shit's crazy, man. We got a lot of ditties from Marlboro.
Dude, can you set some ditties? What I'm going to do is I'm setting us up for another show so we can start, so we can change to another show right now. That way we can have a 1 hour show and then do another one.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit through some of these ditties while you do that. Once again, we really thank Blizzak, Lil Dix Matter, Evol, Nathan G, Trump One. Thanks for Marlboro and anybody else. Drop some ditties if you want. What we're talking about is what we're talking about is the education system in the U.S. and how it's linked to the plutocracy or corporatocracy that has been defining and trying to manipulate people's narratives or the way they think. How the school system was designed to create workers and small-minded people who could push the button and do the work, as George Carlin said, but not smart enough to think. Please chime in if you have any historical context to either education, political science, or any other thing to do with capitalism that you want to drop in. We're going to go through a couple of these Didiocracies while Dave sets up his mission. Really appreciate y'all for being here. Let's get it.
Much love, everybody.
They wanted me to do a Donald Trump impression. Okay?
But
I love Donald Trump. So I got nothing to say. Alright? Sleepy Joe has nothing to say because he's been asleep all day this last year. Okay?
He can do it. He did impersonations of Alex Jones, Obama, and there's his Trump, which was not bad.
That was it. Let me just say, that was a very good Donald Trump. As somebody who can appreciate a very good Donald Trump. That was very good. Very good. Very good. Tremendous, actually.
Incredible. Okay, let's go.
Hello, my friend. I am the leader of ISIS. I just want to say thank you, Joe Biden, for leaving us all these tanks and military equipment. I am here on stereo to say I am declaring holy jihad against stereo. Okay, if you want to fight with me, just say Allah Akbar right now.
Yeah, this is good.
Dang.
This is Putin, and I just say to you, I am running for president of United States 2024. Yes, Putin for president.
Putin, man. Hey, what he brought up real quick is important when we're talking about ISIS and Taliban. When we're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood and how the U.S., who in 2020 was bitching about, oh, Russia's interfering in our elections with Twitter bots and shit. Well, this is a country who is responsible for the overthrow, the assassination, the political strong arming of countries all over the world, especially in the Middle East. So I just think it's important, like you said in the beginning of this talk, 9/11 changed a lot for us in America. It the Homeland Security, the Patriots Act, just the way citizens were viewed and treated. Like airport security will never be the same, never be the same. And I hate to say this, I'm a proud American, but
Me too.
America has created all of its own enemies, right? This came to me so clearly when Trump.
Blowback, baby.
It's blowback. When Trump was doing his shithole
On a
country
side note,
speech.
on a side note, Freedom, go to your profile and approve the show that I just set up for 10 minutes from now.
Okay.
And then keep going with what we were saying.
See it screen. Yeah, when Trump was doing his shithole country speech, he was saying that America has been burdened with solving the rest of the world's problems. The rest of the world is giving these problems to America to solve. Its refugees, fighting its wars, all this foreign aid that the U.S. is doing. And the U.S. does do a lot of foreign aid, and there's some good there. We're not going to talk about the world
most
police
of it's buying weapons.
Bruh, most of it is weapons. That's the thing we export more than anything.
We don't aid people. By giving aid, we're killing people, right? We give $4 billion in aid to Israel, and that kills Palestinians. We give a ton of aid to Saudi Arabia. That's killing Yemenis. Every time we give foreign aid, somebody's dying.
Man, go in, bro. Absolutely. And real quick, also, let's just be frank. As great as America's ideals are and the potential of this country to do to expand the American dream to people, let's be real. Is America's not doing the rest of the world a favor. You have to understand that Western expansion and colonialism was fueled and funded by the resources of Africa. We're not going to pretend like King Leopoldo and the rest of the European powers, even though they had beef with each other, all came to the table to do business, to carve Africa up like a turkey. And we're talking about gold, rubber, diamonds, coltan, ivory. We're talking about the actual people, slaves. All of these things fueled the Western expansion, including the creation of America. It would not be possible without it. So it seems like a really high horse argument to say now that the rest of the world is hanging off our coattails when literally our coat that they're hanging off of was made by them. So it's just really important thing to realize. And
trace it back. You always got to trace it back. Like to this day, the De Beers family, some Dutch family, controls 80% of the diamonds that come out of Africa. Why? Because colonization and imperialism.
Right.
Why do we allow that to happen at this time in 2021?
2021.
Shouldn't Africa fucking get its own goddamn gold and diamonds?
Say it. Gold, we got Fort Knox filled up with gold that primarily, there was a big gold rush in America, but a lot of that gold is African. Just like you said with the De Beers, and let's not talk about Cecil Rhodes and his diamonds. Let's not talk about King Leopoldo and the rubber. It's like you can, if you really want to follow the money, America in some senses is an African export. You wouldn't have America if you did not have the colonization and the carving up of Africa. Now, I know that you said what?
You like music?
Oh, damn. You're not going to go there. But yeah, and then it's crazy when you see like Americans who are retired who go on African safari trips. When you see Africa, it's always depicted as safari. They show the plains, the animals. They don't really show the people. It's like it's a tourist destination, you know?
Yeah. Don't care about the people, but love the lions.
Love the animals. Right. Stop the poachers. Exactly.
Look at those beautiful giraffes. But don't give a fuck about that person over there.
Exactly, man. And I guess just to tie it up, back it into education reform, because I know we got that other topic coming up, is what we've been talking about is how the creation of the American school system and has been really made. It's not that our education system is broken. It's that it's doing exactly what it's designed for, which is to produce workers and to keep people not. Where are the trade schools? Where's the art
Yeah,
and music in schools anymore? None of that. We're
thank you.
teaching to the test. This is coming from a teacher. We're teaching to the
Sure.
test kids how to regurgitate information and make it out so that they can be in thousands and thousands of dollars of student debt trying to pursue a degree for education for a job that they sometimes want, but other times they're just doing for a career. We don't have
And
people
then
who
they're
are.
going to go get a job at Starbucks.
Thank you, bro, to pay off these ridiculous student loans. So this benefits only one group, and that's the elite. And I think me and David have touched on a lot of topics here and in other conversations, but it all kind of boils down to the elite using divide and conquer schemes, and us just really hoping that people are waking up and kind of flexing their power, standing up and letting
Yes.
that chessboard drop off their back and using our collective power. And we also brought up how the racial tensions and divisions have been baked into this country on purpose since Bacon's Rebellion. They don't want poor white people. Matter of fact, let's look at poor white people and let's look at the union wars, how this government literally sabotaged, coerced, threatened, and beat
Oh, the
also
labor
white
wars.
people. The
The labor
labor
wars
wars,
of the
man.
1930s, man. That's a part of our history that's just glossed over.
It's
Like, don't look at
glossed
the
over.
1930s because we joined together then, and we're like, fuck this factory owner.
Right.
Let's go get him with baseball bats. Right? We did
Yep.
that. We
Right.
did that.
Right.
Right? And we could
Right.
do it again.
Right. And
Let's
let's
run
not
through
talk.
so let's
Go
run
ahead.
through these messages before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
switch
yeah.
over to that next topic because I'm
Let's
not
do it.
sure if we'll lose the messages or not.
Okay. All right, let's go. Mountain Lee.
I love the USA. I love the USA. My
Arnold.
grandfather was part of America's civil jihad. You said the A.
Oh God. That's why you
Oh, that
said you
was
don't want
awesome.
the recall. Because last time we recalled a governor in California, we got the
Oh my
governor
God, bro,
Arnold
it's so
Schwarzenegger.
crazy, man. I am like 24 right now, man. So yeah, that's cool, man. Like it's like a flash from the past. You know
Flash
what I'm
from the
saying? Like
past.
sexual harassment from the future.
Whoa! Flash from the
Oh,
past.
Well, hey, well, hello, buddy. I'd like to run around the woods naked with you Republicans. Sounds like a really nice time. I really enjoy that. It
Bill
sounds very
Clinton.
enjoyable to me.
Bill Clinton.
Sign me up. Well, shucks.
Real
hey,
quick,
let's
I'll
go out
say
to the
this.
Bohemian Grove.
Right. Real quick, I'll say this is that whole trick that Clinton did in trying to say that the rich Republicans were running around in the woods naked at the Bohemian Grove to hide the fact that the Democrats and them are arm in arm in that motherfucker. It's the same
Dude,
thing we
he was
see
there.
now. Oh, yeah, personally. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing we see now. Like, we know for a fact as citizens that in California alone, like Dave said, 30,000 children go missing a year. And
Every
our
year.
country as a whole, it's about, what, 800,000, isn't it?
Close to 1 million. Can you say adrenochrome?
So we know that in the 1970s, right, there was this big push, and you can tell from the slasher movies. We're talking about how Freud manipulates people's mind. We had this huge influx of slasher movies about serial killers. And then in the 70s, we had an explosion of serial killers, a lot of them who went on 30, 40 murders. Sprees before getting caught. Some of these, now, of course, a lot of these are just crazy people who are influenced by media and or were already crazy, but the jump means that there was a correlation. Some of these serial killers were found out to be ex-police, police
You
that were
know
covering
Whitey?
up the. Go
Do you
ahead.
know Whitey Bulger? You know Whitey
Mm-mm,
Bulger, right?
I don't. Is that the
Okay,
guy up
he's
in
a
Sacramento?
Irish hitman.
Mm,
Irish hitman for the mob. He was part of the MK Ultra acid test.
mm,
So the CIA fed him LSD. They might have created a homicidal maniac.
yeah, and but what? Why would they do that? Somebody would ask, what's the end
Why
game?
not?
Well, if you're putting out a bunch of slasher movies and then having high profile serial killers all over your news, the milk carton kids, and you're pinning this on a guy with the mustache and the '80s
Oh shit,
mullet,
you did
you're
not.
you're then throwing
Kevin
people off.
Collins, the milk carton
Yeah,
kid.
yeah. Oh shit. But you're
I
throwing
remember
people
that.
off, right? You're throwing people off to make them think that these near 1 million kids that go missing annually in the U.S. Is the work of a guy with a mullet and a minivan. It's not. It's
Right.
much more coordinated than that. So what you
Yeah.
saw when Joe Biden was forced to address it is he said, these crazy Republicans think the Democrats are drinking blood of kids. When you say it like that, it sounds absolutely stupid and ridiculous. And you want to look at anybody who thinks that is a tinfoil idiot, right?
Right.
But
But then you have Hillary Clinton mentioning Moloch.
right, and you see
Oh
that
shit.
it's the same thing Clinton did to say that, oh, it's a deflection tactic. Yes, we know that there's crazy rituals going on in the Bohemian Grove, but I'm not going to address it. I'm going to deflect it by saying, yeah, those crazy Republicans are running around naked. When we say, hey, we know that there's underground networks like in the Franklin scandal that have either local law enforcement and or sometimes FBI covering up these pedophile rings, I'll deflect it by saying, yeah, those crazy Democrats drinking blood. Just to make it sound as stupid and ridiculous as possible, just notice those are two presidents who said almost the same kind of deflective comment. And just
Absolutely.
because, it's crazy. I guess that's another rabbit hole. We'll go into that later. But 1 million kids going missing in our country is fucking crazy, people. It's crazy. And yes, there's greater powers at work, but honestly, we as the citizens of America are to blame for being so caught up on our football games, our WWE pay-per-views, our sports, our entertainment, our reality TV, guys. We're letting that happen, especially when we let the media just say, "Oh, that's crazy," and we just say, "Yeah, yeah, you're right, that's crazy." Or Pizzagate. Pizzagate had a lot of real shit going on, but then it also had shit that the news used, like JFK's magic bullet theory, that was used to discredit the rest of the real theories, like the second shooter. So we can't be so simple that we're letting them throw us off and letting huge problems like that persist. We got to be smarter. We got to look out for dangerous information, misinformation, and foolish conspiracies. But we can't use that, just like in 9/11, to say, oh, there's so many crazy theories, I don't know which one to believe, so I'm not going to give a fuck about any. We can't let them do
Right.
that to us.
Exactly. And that's the thing is there's a thing, right? Information overload where you just shut down. You're like,
That's exactly what
it's
it's
too
called.
much. So
Right.
that's what they do, right? That's what they do on purpose.
Right.
It just throws so much at you. And like you said, like, oh my God, that was really well put about how some of these crazy serial killers may have been created, and we know
Right.
Whitey Bulger was.
Right.
So at the same time this narrative is being put out in Hollywood, these characters are being shoved at us. Oh, another one, Charles Manson
Oh
was
my
part
God.
Charles Manson was part of the CIA MK Ultra acid tests. They
Yeah.
gave him free LSD to set up his cult.
Absolutely, and that's such a great point that you mentioned, because again, we're talking about these people being used as ruse. Charles Manson was literally used to kill the hippie movement in America, right? Like you had these
Yeah,
people who
he
were
killed the
rising
Summer
up.
of Love.
He killed the summer of love, and then all of a sudden you can say that all hippies, everything that they did was good, was then ended by this crazy-eyed wild man who used his cult of personality to kill people, and the hippie movement therefore died after that. We saw
And
that Fred
then
Hamp. Oh, go ahead.
it led to that whole thing of like, oh, see, so if you go down that hippie road, you're going to end up with Charles Manson,
Exactly.
right?
Same
You're going
thing
to
when we
end up
talk.
killing somebody.
Right, and destroy the movement, just like the Black Panthers, right? Black
Yep.
Panthers were coming out doing, first of all, people don't know how much of their money, how much of the people who were donating to the free breakfast program and how many other support they had were white people and other companies. It wasn't a racist organization. It was all about building social economic bridges between people and helping the Black community, which at that time, and in some ways still, was receiving some of the brunt of the oppression tactics used by our government. And so after you categorize them as these crazy militant Black people, you can literally, and then you assassinate their leaders like Fred Hampton. Who the fuck wants to be a Panther anymore? Like let's not talk about the AIM, the American Indian movement, which was
Now,
gaining
can
steam.
I
It was
just talk on Fred Hampton for one sec?
get
Have
in
you
there.
seen the movie Vanguard for the Revolution?
No.
There's an amazing documentary about the BPs, about the Black Panthers, called Vanguard for the Revolution, and what it talks about. They talk about through Freedom of Information Act. This is now fact. The FBI admitted it, that he was murdered. He was totally assassinated. The New York police sat right outside and watched the whole thing go down. Did not react, did not respond. We're basically given a stand down order, right?
Yep.
It was a setup. It was an assassination, just like MLK, just like Malcolm X, both of the Kennedys.
Both of the Kennedys, yeah. And real quick,
I think there were about 13 Black Panther members that were assassinated.
Absolutely. 3 in that house that night, and just over time. Right. And let's not even talk about the political imprisonments of that time, the bogus charges that were put on people. And they admit that these bogus charges were cooked up out of thin air, not to even put these guys in jail, but to exhaust their funds for them spending on defense lawyers so that they could financially bankrupt the Black Panthers. And real quick, since we're talking about Malcolm X, it was a story that was just in the paper a year ago that one of the undercover people came out and on his deathbed and released a lot of the information of what his role was in Malcolm X's assassination. Malcolm X's bodyguard, who he thought was one of his best friends, was a fucking informant that night. And there were so many things about the security and people being let in with guns that show that, yes, the triggermen that shot Malcolm X were Black, but they were not Nation of Islam people, that these are FBI plants, and that whole situation was precipitated. If you really want Black people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, why then would you sabotage every honest attempt they had at a self-power driven self-determinism? Why would the government feel it so important to stop them? Why would J. Edgar Hoover say that they're the biggest threat when they're literally hosting free breakfast programs, activism, empowering women and men? Like, why kill Malcolm?
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of people remember the Black Panthers as a militant force, right?
Yes.
Now this is some bullshit. They started as an after-school program, offering free daycare, offering breakfast for hungry kids, and what they were also doing is they had police scanners. So they would listen to police calls, and if somebody got pulled over, they would follow and they would film the police, because you know why? Because police were murdering Black people at a feverish pace, and this is in Oakland, fucking California.
My
Oakland,
hometown,
California,
baby. Sorry.
In the 60s. This is not 100 years ago, dude.
This is when my dad was alive. My father was...
A minute ago.
Thank you.
Dude, I was born in 67. My dad was born in Oakland. I didn't even mention that. My dad was born in Oakland.
Okay.
So I got roots.
Yeah,
my grandma had a house on 87th Avenue, East Oakland.
I stay 105th East Oakland. That's crazy.
Wow.
I can say that on here because it's the hood. Ain't nobody gonna come up here trying to find me. Why? We deep about church. But anyway,
not if they're smart.
Not if they're smart. One way in, one way out. But yeah, I think that's an absolutely great point. So, just to cap off this topic, is we've this isn't a rabbit hole. These aren't conspiracy theories. Everything that me and Dave brought up is documented. There's books about it. When you talk about the American Indian movement and how they had false flag events and murders precipitated by informants, and the CIA and FBI, while they may be doing good things in other senses, I think the FBI and CIA do need to come to a reckoning, just like when they were going to release the Kennedy files and say, look, we're not about this anymore. But this is the history we had when it comes to self-determination movements of ethnicities in this country. That needs to be a reckoning, because it's a fucked up, shady history that a lot of people aren't going to be able to move on until they get that closure and that reassurance that the FBI and the CIA is on your side, that we won't sabotage you, just like when they were sending hate mail and letters between Black Panthers and other groups. Go ahead.
I think they need to be disbanded.
Right.
They've been proven to be criminal enterprises. The CIA has been proven to deal drugs, right? The Iran Contra scandal with George Bush, Bill Clinton, Ollie North, Barry Seal,
Oliver North. Damn.
You know, Freeway Ricky Ross. The pilot was Barry Seal.
Right.
You know, it goes deep. The person, the reporter that broke the story, Gary Webb,
was
wrote
murdered
for the San Jose Mercury News.
Yep.
He was murdered. They said he committed suicide. You know how he killed himself?
A bullet to the back of the head?
No, a nail gun.
Wow.
Twice.
And Gary Webb is also.
Who could shoot themselves twice with a nail gun? The first time you'd be like down on the floor, right? No,
right.
Two shots with a nail gun.
You'd be lobotomized. Exactly.
You'd be done.
Gary Webb is a great person for people who want to research and see how true this stuff is. And that was the link that not only was he talking about the Iran Contra controversy, but he was also specifically talking about the crack epidemic in the black communities in the 80s. Now, Gary Webb is a white guy who has necessarily no reason to try to fabricate a victimhood mentality or a victimhood narrative.
Right.
This guy is just using pure statistics, following the money. And people like Freeway Ricky Ross admit that they had handlers. And in the 1950s and 60s, black people are definitely not first-class citizens enough to be flying back and forth from Cuba and South America, bringing in these drugs. The drugs that came into the black community were brought in by the CIA and the FBI. I don't know about the FBI, but for sure the CIA. And Gary Webb was connecting a lot of these dots. He released it. You're absolutely right. In the San Jose Mercury, this man was murdered, yo. This guy was assassinated, but his work is still out there. So check out his work, check out his story, and look at the connections he makes. And the last thing I'll say on that,
I think his book is called Dark Web.
Ooh, I wrote down 3 things so far that you told me that I'm going to look up. This is exciting, but yeah, man, I think it's really important. And the last thing I'll say to cap that thought off is this isn't about pointing the finger at white people, because as we've discussed in the beginning of this talk, white people is a fabricated name created by the elite as a part of pitting us against each other. Poor and common white people didn't have anything to do with this. You could say that by buying into the white identity, by accepting some of those privileges, that they have a part that they need to dismantle where the rubber meets the road. And that may be true. But when we're talking about the overlying force that pits people against each other, we're talking about the elites, and we're talking about the people who had the power to ship drugs in and do scandals across continents. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say that from the labor wars to the Black Panthers to the American Indian movement to all of these things tying in, it ties into us versus them. And I don't necessarily think we need to do a violent revolution, because when it comes to the social economic power, as soon as you de-invest from the problem, you start funding the solution. We're talking about these huge banks. We're talking about these news conglomerates. We're talking about being so distracted by entertainment and shoes and jewelry. Do I have a tank?
Yeah. So we can't fight them that way. So we have to fight them with our brains.
And I love that there's militias in America. I love that we love our Second Amendment rights. But let's be honest, guys.
We need those people.
We need those people. But listen, there's no way we're going to outgun them. Like, let's be
real.
No. Because when it comes to it, it's crazy town. When you talk about the CIA, the FBI, or let's say they call in the NATO troops, it's the stupidest, most bloody way to resolve it, to think we're going to do this in a bloody revolution. Let's get that thought out of our head. Let's say that those militias are going to protect our revolutionary. Let's say that those militias and even gang members across America are going to stop turning those guns on each other and use that as a force of self-policing and self-patrolling, keeping them safe, like the Black Panthers were.
Hell yeah.
There's so many things we can do with those guns and the rights to bear arms, but a violent revolution, we don't need to storm the castle and kill the 1%. We really honestly don't, because
they'll kill themselves.
They're the top 1% of the top 1%. We're not even talking about people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos people. People who are really
talking about people that you don't know their names.
It's exactly. So, yeah, Dave, sorry, I've been talking a lot. You want to go in on some shit?
No, man, no. I completely agree with exactly what you're saying. We don't know their names. The people are hidden from public view. The people that we're fed are the pawns, right? Those are the chess pieces on the board. and they're being told what to do, right, by the money factors. Ultimately, the Rothschild family would be the richest family in the world,
and we know
so
their
they're
name.
in control. They're in control of many of these things, but you don't know who they are, and you don't know who their board of directors are. These are mystery people that operate behind the scenes, and they have trillions of dollars, right? So, Bill Gates has a few billion, right? 90-something billion, whatever.
Right.
He's a child to them.
Exactly. Look, check your history, guys. Check your history. Let's hit a couple more ditties up in this piece.
Let's do it. Run through these.
The light is dim. All you can see is the shadow of the moon. A stranger approaches, wearing a black cape. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. He approaches another man in the shadows. He says, "Have you ever had a hemorrhoid before? That shit busting."
He hit me with the poetry, and then he hit me with the hemorrhoids. I was like, oh shit. Thought he was gonna say, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? I'm like, God,
that's exactly what I thought was coming. That's exactly what I thought was coming. That was a great segue, I'm gonna say.
It was. Let's go.
I stared into the darkness, daring to dream a dream that has never been dreamed before.
Hit that quote.
Yo, it's like you got 5 minutes to grab whatever you need. The house is on fire. What do you grab? The family photos, the money in the safe, my cocaine, my Glock, my little kids that are sleeping in bed. Now I'm gonna grab my penis, dog. Straight up swagger. Yeah,
You don't want it to turn to a bratwurst.
At least he's got his fucking priorities straight. Yeah, you just don't want your penis to turn into a brat while it's in your hand.
Right. I mean, you can buy everything else. Pictures
you don't want
can
that
take
shit
again.
pumping while it cooks.
Right, and as long as you save that, you can make more kids. So you can leave the other ones in the bed. No, I'm just kidding. Don't be that way.
That's right.
That's fucked up. Nathan G.
But they don't want us to own weapons. It's always so funny.
Say it.
Oh, yeah.
Just touched on that.
There you go. Preach. Because you know what they did in Australia? Got rid of confiscated a bunch of guns, right? Did it affect crime at all? No. And guess why? Because you think I would, if I was going to go rob somebody, you think I would use a gun that was registered to me? Wouldn't that be fucking stupid?
Right.
Wouldn't I break into your house, steal your gun, and then put some rubber bands on the handle so it doesn't get my fingerprints, and then I got to fucking maybe even shave off the file numbers, right? So now I got to fucking throw away.
Yeah, you sound like you've got experience there, Dave. Is there something you don't want to tell us?
No. Okay. Dave Smith from Montana.
All right, let's go. Mountain Lee.
Oh, man, they're still sabotaging stuff today. I think they sabotaged our election. I think it's even more clear today. Joe Biden's extremely unpopular, man. They sabotaged our election.
Which one?
And, yeah.
Right.
Long before that, the FBI and CIA is still messing with our politics and our everyday lives.
Absolutely. You said something on that, Dave?
They sabotaged our election when they assassinated Kennedy. Ever since then, we have just been a chump. They took our leader. They killed everybody that backed him, and they fed us neocons and neoliberals who have been progressing the same agenda, which is never-ending war to take over the whole world and seize the remaining fossil fuel resources available in the world. And that's obviously what we're doing with 1,000 military bases around the world, mostly in oil and natural gas possessing regions.
Right. And when you vote in the Republicans or the Democrats, when we play that back and forth, the only thing that are going to change are these really small, kind of insignificant surface level things. Honestly, to be fair, they might impact your daily life. Like, for example, abortion. Sure, that's a choice that you face between the two, right? But when we're talking about the geopolitical ramifications of what the U.S. does around the world, especially foreign policy, it's the absolute same. And you can tell because think tanks like the Trilateral Commission Exactly. The Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Affairs have Democrats and Republicans. That shit seems to work like a well-oiled machine. We know that when it comes to things like the Bilderberg Group, these are rich politicians. These are rich conglomerates, company owners, elite people that we don't even know the names of, and we know that they're coming together to decide foreign policy and the narratives moving forward. And I think it's really important to say at this point, guys, is that we know that you've heard crazy conspiracy theories. We know that you've heard things worded in such a way that it sounds absolutely ridiculous. But some phrases that we are so familiar with, like the poor get poorer and the rich get richer, we know that that's not a myth. That shit is happening, and we see that the classes are getting further and further apart. We also see that these same companies, like we were talking about PG&E, which in California has a complete monopoly on land, labor, and capital as far as power, electric, and gas. There's no alternative to them. They're too big to fail. When we're talking about these banks, they're too big to fail. These same companies are raping the shit out of our planet and our resources. You can believe in climate change or not, but that is no excuse to, without end, just take what you want and sell it to people. Pulling water out of the ground that will literally dry up a California town and then selling that shit in water bottles. That's out of pocket.
In plastic water bottles that are polluting the ocean.
Right. And we as people, again, I'm sorry, are so caught up in this Black Friday Christmas mentality that just as long as it's convenient and it's in a shiny package and we buy it, we're overlooking it, y'all.
And I'll stomp on you to get it. Right? Black Friday, baby.
Yes, you're right. All right, Sleepy.
Like, really? I got a TV in front of me. Fuck you.
I'm elbowing the shit out of this grandma from my TV.
Wow. Right?
Sleepy, let's go.
I'm just checking in, gentlemen. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, OG. Right on. Thanks for sliding through. Shout out to Lizak.
Thanks for chiming in.
Yeah, been here for a minute. Lil Dicks Matter, Evol, Vader, Liberty Warrior, Mountain Lee, and Gemini Twix. Hey, fellow Gemini in the house. What's up, Gemini sister? Yes.
Appreciate you people.
Definitely appreciate you, and thank you for chiming in. We're about to wrap this talk up and change the subject. So if you have anything else you want to add on this topic about anything, any shady ways that you see people being manipulated to advance the agenda of the elite, it's happening. It's not a conspiracy theory. You might hear somebody say, "Oh, they're lizard people," or "Oh, they're eating children," or whatever crazy shit comes on top of it. Know that the real thing is that these elite people definitely have a plan to make themselves richer and everybody else poorer, while they privatize and own more land, labor, and capital resources, and eventually try to replace us with things like artificial technology. We know that they're tracking our data and using algorithms to predict our behavior so that they could feed us problem, reaction, solution situations and crises that make us clamor for what they want us to have anyway. This is not a conspiracy. This is historical fact. Follow the money, follow the history, look deeper than what we see.
And we also know what Edward Snowden taught us, right? Like, we are being spied on at all times. So our phones right now, when we say keywords like pipe bomb, terrorism, Al-Qaeda,
don't
ISIS,
say them. Oh God! Now this fucking talk is flagged. The CIA is listening. Hi CIA. Yeah. We would just like to say.
Now there's a computer running, and the NSA is recording us, literally recording us with a computer in a massive warehouse. They just built a new campus in Utah with 70,000 employees.
Right.
70,000, the size of a city.
Oh my God. And it's not a conspiracy that in the 60s, when they were spying on Martin Luther King's conversations and calling people to create beefs between movements and telling people, Coretta Scott King, that Martin Luther King was being promiscuous. They had people and operators, but Dave is absolutely right that with speech recognition technology, AI can recognize those phrases for them, and it doesn't have to get on the desk of a real person until it gets flagged by the AI a few times and says, maybe you should review this. So we are constantly being spied on. And my very, very, very first talk on stereo, because I was here supporting and listening, chiming into other people for a while. But if you go back in my history to my very first talk, it was called "Is Stereo a Trap?" And we had a really great conversation about technologies like these that
Data mining.
Yeah, it's data mining. It's getting your opinion, your thoughts. It's literally recording every word you say. And even though we had a really great conversation that brought up a lot of things to be wary of, people in that talk, and we also, the host, decided that we continued using this app because the benefits of connecting with people, sharing ideas, making connections, and taking actions together far outweigh the fact that we're being listened to, because we're being listened to anyway. Your phone conversations have those keyword hot tags. Siri, Alexa, your text messages, your Facebook. So we don't need to fear them because that data is out there. We just need to be proactive and make sure we're working harder than them. And
That's it.
so yeah,
Fear
I'll
kills.
say that.
Fear kills, exactly. And you know, I'm on a list. I don't give a fuck. I'm on the list already.
I know you're
I'm
on
proud
the
of
list.
it. I'm proud of it. I don't give a fuck. I'm not hiding. I'm here in plain sight. You want to kill me? Go ahead. Right? And you know, I've said it a million times. Like, if I was going to commit suicide, it would be in a fantastic way. So, like,
good luck. Good luck making
know?
a creative. Two nail gun shots to the head ain't gonna do it. And the other thing I'll say on Fear Kills
So
is,
you
look,
find
bro,
me hung somewhere, you know what's up, right? It wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me. But if you find me completely covered in Sharpie marker with crazy messages written on me and a Joker
Hanging
mask
off the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
with a Batman cape and rubber bands,
and a big old sign, big
and a
old
sign,
banner, exactly.
Then maybe it was me.
Right.
And real quick on Fear Kills is, bro, we've seen people literally die from walking down the street and slipping on ice in place where it snows. People die from accidents. People die from heart attacks. People die in all kind of crazy, in all kind of random, quick ways. So I absolutely have no fear of death, and there's no way that they can threaten me. Like when Joker was getting his ass punched in the interrogation room, he says, "You have nothing to threaten me with." I would actually rather die because the social political elite, as they call themselves, thought that the information and the connections we were making was such a threat that they had to take me out, martyr in the ways of like Yahushua and other martyrs before him, like John the Baptist and other great people in the world. Take me out like them. It's an honor, rather than he slipped down a flight of stairs just because he was clumsy as fuck. Like, go ahead.
Died in a car accident.
Yeah, make me legendary. Right? Shit.
Something stupid like a car accident, or like,
or even just old age, man. You know,
slipped and fell in Walmart, hit his head. You know, died of old age. Like, how rock star is that? Died of old age. You know, had a wonderful life.
Like Dr. King said, longevity has its place. I don't want to be a martyr, but now I'm quoting Joker. If you gotta go, go with a smile. Yeah. All right, let's hit some more of these ditties. Keep chiming in, folks. We go hit some more of these ditties.
I just got to tell you, Freedom, give me 1 second. Bro, I am loving this conversation.
Me too, bro. We're on the same wavelength. I am loving. Absolutely.
Like, people, we met last night.
Yeah, on a panel.
Last night on a panel.
Started by Mike Allen. Shout out to Mike Allen.
Shout out to Mike Allen and ANN. What does ANN stand for?
Let's give Alliance News Network. Plug.
Thank you, Alliance News Network. 222 rah. Bunch of people on there.
We had Big Boy on there, storyteller. We had a Mr. Bliss. It was dope, y'all.
It was an amazing talk. Look for that on stereo. I will post it on my podcast. But this has been amazing, man. And like, I'm loving this.
Yeah, this definitely won't be the last. And for anybody who's coming in, please listen to the whole talk, man. We talked about so many topics. I think the way me and Dave discussed it is really important. And I know a lot of people on stereo I'm just surprised in so many ways that I meet people who know what's going on and who have the language to describe it, that it's not some kind of crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, guys. We're just analyzing the true history, our personal experiences, using our intuition. For those people that are guided by faith and God, we know that revelations and stories in the Bible and the Quran speak so much about these issues and these times that you really can't doubt the fight against this organized evil that we're dealing with. I'd love to also think that we're just waking up in meat bodies and we're just living a mundane life so we can die, playing video games and watching TV. But you know, it's more to that going on. You know, when you look up to the sky and you see them depths of stars, that we're part of a long lineage of creative, expressive entities that have come into physical form to express consciousness in ways that most people can't understand. You know, it's more than that. And I just love and honor that I meet people on this app that can see through the matrix and really just live in the present moment in the story we're in. So really appreciate running into y'all. Listen to this talk.
You know what's blowing my mind right now? The fact that you just mentioned meat suit. So I was getting acupuncture. I got rear-ended the other month, whatever.
Oh, no.
So I was getting acupuncture today, and I'm lying there, you know, with 42 needles in my back and my head and my arms and all this shit.
Damn.
And I'm thinking like, oh, it's just my meat suit.
Ooh, right.
Literally, same word, bro.
And you're coming into this form with amnesia. You know, you don't know what happened before or what's going to happen after, which is just another tool for us to be in the present moment and not be caught up and just live this experience for what it is. And I know a lot of talks recently have come up with COVID because it's such an important thing that we're all going through as a world. We've never been so in a united experience altogether. So I have no problem talking about that. But I love that me and Dave kept those rabbit holes for another discussion and just talked about other current issues. So I feel like it was a really good talk. And
I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like COVID's being rammed down your throat at every turn, right? So like, what do I got to say that you haven't heard 42 times?
At this point, right.
So I'm over it, right? Like, I'm not saying it's not real, not that at all. Just what can I say that you haven't already heard, right? So I can add better things in other places.
Right. And everything that we talked about, like when we talked about the Virginia Slims and Philip Morris, the cigarette branding of feminism, when we talked about this and that, that's still the same kind of politics and the same kind of processes and mechanics that are behind these current events that we're going through in 2020. So it's more, it hasn't stopped.
Oppression hasn't gone away. Corporate rule has not gone away. The 1% has only gotten stronger. And I don't know if most people know it, but income inequality is more. There's more income inequality now. The gap is wider now than it has ever been. We hear about the Roaring 20s, and then before that, the Gilded Age of the late 1800s. This shit right now, with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, that dwarfs that shit.
And those are the people you know about. We're not even talking about the people who have so much assets, it can't even really, for example, I don't want to keep blowing their name up, but the Rothschilds, you really couldn't list all the assets they have between land, influence, money, historical.
They couldn't even.
You can't even do it. It's trillions upon trillions.
There's fucking butterflies named after them. They have fucking wines named after them. There's like, it's insane when you start digging. Once you go down that rabbit hole, like, go do it, people on YouTube. Like, just type in Rothschilds and go. It's gonna blow your mind. The 13 families. Start with that. The 13 families, right?
The 13 families and the meeting on Jekyll Island, and these are historical facts, people. And
dude, I love you, bro.
Me and you are on the same shit, absolutely.
We
used to work.
We are family.
Bohemian Club. We family up in this motherfucker, and we some California representatives, and we got Oakland in the house. Yo, Pops out here in the town, yada, feel me? And not only in the town, but this man was in deep East Oakland for real. All right. Let's hit some more of these ditties real quick.
86.
We got Mountain Lee in the chamber. Let's hit him.
Dave Smith, you said you're from Montana. I'm from Montana. I don't know if you said that. Did I hear that right?
I was totally joking. Like, when people ask me if I'm serious about my name being Dave Smith, I'm like, yeah, I'm wanted for murder in Montana.
This dude. Montana man, wanted for murder, right?
No, I'm from California.
Right. Let's go.
My dad was born in Oaktown.
Oaktown.
Hello, gentlemen. Hope your day is going great. Want to ask you, gentlemen, real quick, if you heard about the leftist liberal Antifa teacher out in California, I believe it was, where he was caught on video spewing out that Antifa has organized and has organizations in California. So basically, anyone that has ever said that it's an ideology is caught red-handed in a lie. So what are you guys' thoughts on the whole situation there?
Mm-hmm. You got some on
I
that
would
first,
need to
Dave?
I would need to see a link because what Antifa stands for is anti-fascist.
Anti-fascist.
So it's basically you're either for fascists or you're against them.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-fascists are, by definition, against fascism, right? And fascism, like the Nazis, are the best example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stalin, the Nazis. That's what we're talking about, right? And the hate groups within our country, like the Proud Boys, like many,
And
many, many groups that are rising up, carrying guns in public right now in this country, right now.
including Antifa, Dave. No,
Well,
I'll
so
say this. Yeah,
Antifa was born as a rebellion to that,
that's
right?
true.
As a response, as a it was formed like Al Qaeda, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a bullshit. The CIA came up with the word Al Qaeda, and the CIA
Yep.
basically created Al Qaeda. But the way Al
Same
Qaeda
with
works,
ISIS.
yeah, exactly. But the way Al Qaeda works is in cells, right? So you operate on your own, I operate on my own. We only know each other by a code name. We don't know each other's plans, but we're kind of loosely
Mm-hmm.
associated with the same thing. But it's not really a team, you know?
Right. And I'll say this about that is earlier in this talk, we talked about how America sometimes creates its own enemies, right? And we talked about in the early 1800s how this school system was based on the Prussian model, really to just create factory workers, but also to teach the normacy of white identity and
Thank you.
the racial hierarchies of black, white, which again, the labels black and white were created in the 1800s around the time of Charles Darwin to specifically pit people against each other. So when we're bringing up that history, we have to understand that also the Daughters of Confederacy had a lot of
You
movements
did not.
to edit and make sure that the lost cause narrative of the Civil War and other white narratives were further weaved into our education so that this divide could be exploited as it is in 2020. So, unfortunately, I agree with you that sometimes I hear some liberal college professors these days speaking of America in ways that I don't think are helpful or unifying to the best principles. But again, we have to understand why those people became so radicalized, because we have to understand that for 150 years, we were teaching bullshit whitewashed history, and
Absolutely.
by doing that and by snuffing out the stories of indigenous people, of Native Americans, of slaves and African Americans, free blacks, entrepreneurs, by covering up history like the
Black
Red
Wall
Summer of
Street.
Black Wall Street. I was just about to say, by snuffing out the history of the Red Summer of 1919, where Black Wall Street, Bruce's Beach, and so many other independent black towns were burned down and rioted out of existence. By not teaching those histories of things like the German Coast Uprising, the German Coast Slave Uprising, you obviously started creating this resentment of the way history was taught in America. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
that radicalized a lot of college professors, so that we saw the Daughters of Confederacy, of course, were really, really, really popping in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And when did you start getting your first
But
real liberal radical professors? You got them in the 60s and 70s,
but
unfortunately.
let's talk about what the Daughters of Confederacy were.
Mm,
These were some prima donna
mm,
socialite rich
mm-hmm,
bitches
mm-hmm,
that had nothing to do, that came from plantation families. So they
mm,
made their money from slavery,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted to right their reputation.
Right.
So they paid and lobbied. They paid for the statues because they were
Mm-hmm.
rich from slavery. They
Rich.
should They should all be okay. So this is going to lead us to ADOS and reparations and how those
Mm-hmm.
motherfuckers, not just the government of course, because it
Mm-hmm.
fucking writ the laws, but
Mm-hmm.
those motherfuckers specifically should be
Mm.
held accountable, in my mind.
Period. Period.
Guilty, guilty.
And
Hang,
again, when
hang 'em or
oh,
pay.
you had a
Hang
point.
'em or pay.
Yeah. Yeah, and when people talk about reparations, I absolutely agree with the common poor and middle class white person that, of course, those reparations shouldn't come out of your pocket. Just like he said about the Beers Company, Cecil Rhodes Company, all these companies that we have a dollar line assessment of slave and stolen resource money, follow the money. Those are the people that need to be paying. It doesn't need to come out of your government. There's multi-billion-dollar corporations and people that have money, made money, and continue to make money off of the resources like stolen diamonds, rubber, and not to mention coltan.
And I don't care if you have to tax a company out of the business because they did wrong, well then we do what is right and we make it right, and fuck it, that's one company, and guess what? Another company will rise up in that vacuum and take their place.
Baby. Right.
So that brings me to 2008 and how we got so screwed there by Obama,
the housing
right?
Crash,
I did a podcast.
The crash happened before Obama, but he's the one that just wrote the checks for the big bailout. Absolutely.
He's the one that bent us over. Exactly.
No.
He sealed the deal.
We were bent over during the end of the Bush when they were selling these.
It was all bad.
When they were selling the toxic shit, but he's the one that strapped up and put it in. Let's say that.
Thank you. I hate Bush, but Obama, like, oh my God, I voted for him the first time, right? Like, hope and change. Fuck yeah, riot, revolution, peaceful revolution. Really awesome. Let's do it. But oh, bummer. For those that don't know, Citibank wrote him a letter. Here's 21 people we want in your cabinet. He put every fucking one of those people in his cabinet. As soon as he got out of office, he made a speech to Citibank, 30-minute speech. He got paid $400,000. What's that about? Payback. Can you say payback?
Say it. And I'll say this also. When we talk about the dynamic between Republicans and Democrats and how a lot of people are so vested. Oh, they're the lesser of this evil. My party is this.
Corporate parties.
It's two wings of the same bird. And look, Trump has done some good things. There's things I like about Trump. You're not gonna get me on the Democrats say he's Hitler, so hate everything he does. I'm not. You can't play my strings like that.
Nobody's Hitler, and Hitler probably wasn't even Hitler. Like, right? We hype.
He was on the fucking Times magazine. We hyped him up.
We hype him up so much.
Yeah,
right? He's just a guy.
He's the villain. He's the villain in Captain America. He's the villain in Wonder Woman. Like, dude, chill the fuck out on the Hitler, bro. Chill the fuck out on the Hitler.
I'm over it.
But
what about Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh my God, they're hyping him up like fuck. This guy's got like 20 documentaries now. Chill.
Oh, cool.
We get it.
But I'm just saying he's better than Hitler.
Oh yeah, there you go. At least he had an interesting backstory. But I'll say this: the reason I brought that up is, look. So I'm not big on the hate Trump wagon, but look at this.
Me either.
For anybody who thinks Trump is this outsider to the deep state and he's the savior and he's working with the angelic forces and the benevolent ETs to take down the deep state and take down the lizard men, for people that think that I have to tell you people, because this is your version, because you're getting this for the first time. The way he speaks to you on a subconscious level that almost makes you feel like he's speaking for you and saying what's on your mind. You feel so good about it, right? Let me tell you something. That's he was created for you, just like Obama was created for the other side. Now, you guys probably don't remember
this. Kennedy. Let's look at Kennedy, like a really good one, right?
We'll do that next.
He's trying to be a Kennedy. He's trying to be a person for the people.
Cult of personality.
But he's not. Exactly. Living color, man.
Yeah. But what I'm saying about Obama is people got to realize he was the same thing, right? Obama was an outsider to the system. He's black. He represents what politics does not. He's going to come he's in contact with the benevolent forces and the benevolent ETs. He's going to say, like, so for the left and for people of color, they had Obama. And then in stark contrast, we saw this. There's this great documentary called Right America Feeling Wronged. Great documentary. And it was before Trump, so I encourage people to watch it.
You got to say that again.
Right, RIGHT, Right America Feeling Wronged. Such a great documentary. And
I don't know about you people listening, but I got a pad of paper with me and a pen.
I do too.
Because I knew you were going to be dropping gems, Freedom. So thank you.
You too.
So, Right America Feeling Wrong, right?
Right, man. You can find it on YouTube still. And so I just have to say that we can't let this two-party system in the Jacksonian era of democracy was specifically created to pacify and divide people. And that's exactly what it's doing. So you're not going to get a president who's the hero card, who's going to save the world and do everything right. Nobody makes it that far who's trying to do that, period.
No, and that leads us right to the Federal Reserve, doesn't it?
Uh-oh. Right back.
Because any president that has tried to really stand for the people against and then now against the Rothschild Empire, which is the central bank, has been assassinated. And this goes back to Andrew. This goes back to like Andrew Jackson, Lincoln, and Kennedy, right?
Yep. And another point on that is, this is another name you guys might want to take down. Search up Lawrence P. McDonald, right? This guy was running against George Bush Sr., George W. Bush. And this guy was coming out on public stages saying things about the global elite. He was saying, well, Bush, you should know about that. You're tied to such and such and such, skull and bones, this and that. Like this politician gave no F's, right? He died. He's not a conspiracy theorist. Well, not only did he die, but he called Bush out to his face and other other Democrats and Republicans out to their face, linking them to the Trilateral Commission and all these huge groups, right? Nice. The way they killed this man, he was such a threat. They shot down a plane with him and I think 100 other passengers on it, just to make sure people wouldn't think it was an assassination. So search up Lawrence P. McDonald
and to make sure they got him.
And to make sure they got him.
Here's the perfect time to get him, and it won't look like an assassination.
Exactly. And this is how
it'll look like an act of war or some shit. That's how. So what kills me is that in this day and age, that people still would think like, our government wouldn't do that to us. Like, really?
Right.